There we go. All right, welcome everybody. We're doing something a little bit different today, simply because well, two things we're doing different. Number one, we're going to do a question and answer process on Realvolve. One of the things that we have been asked a few different times, just steps on how to do different things and processes. We've got a few that have been pre-asked so that we know, we've got some content, but also if you guys just have questions, kind of a AMA, ask me anything type thing, we'll go through that process as well. For those that have just joined us and wasn't here earlier, I'm running at a little bit of a disadvantage. My computer decided it was going to go south for the winter, and it's in the middle of doing a full restore. And so Kendra has graciously accepted ownership of this meeting, and we're going to go through and do some stuff with her. So we'll get going and just kind of ask, go through the process. For those that don't know me, my name is Mark Stepp, and for those that do know me, I've been around for a while and just enjoy helping real estate agents figure out how to do process, how to scale their business, and how to do the things they need to do to automate and make a sustainable business that you can keep into the future. So that's me. And Kendra on the other side. Kendra, go ahead.
My name's Kendra Rouse. I'm in our premium services department. I and my team work one-on-one with you to really customize and implement your processes so that they work specific to your business and that your software is working, at the best of its ability inside of Realvolve so that you can use that every day at its highest level. Today, Mark mentioned, we are going to have periodic office hours where we focus on Q&A. And so part of the hour will be taking questions that we received where you may have, received a written response and really kind of putting some context or examples behind those. And my hope is that for the newer agents that are on the call, you'll see some capabilities inside of Realvolve. And if you've been a user of Realvolve for a while, you may see some things in here that you're not currently doing or give you some ideas on other ways you could be using Realvolve. We're going to go over ways. What's that, Mark?
That's just one of the things that every time I meet with somebody, even if they've been with us for several years, I will show them something like, oh, I didn't know it would do that. And those are the things that we want to make sure that we help people understand is the power of Realvolve and what it can do.
Right. And so as we're going through this, like I said, I've pre-selected a few questions and I'm going to answer them. And I've got a few videos kind of using examples on those. And then we've left some time at the end, a little bit more than normal so that we can answer some of your questions. So as we're going through here, if you think of anything, what are your biggest pain points in Realvolve right now? What are the things that you could be asking us that, may help? What could you take our opinions on and take into your day and make your day a little bit better? So I challenge you to be thinking of those things as we go through. And again, for the novice and the experienced, I hope you take something and learn something out of what we're sharing and would love to hear your questions. So as we go through, go ahead and put them in chat and we'll take a look at those at the end. Also, as our giveaway today, we're giving away an agent yearly reminder workflow, and we'll kind of go over what that is and how that can benefit you and your business. All right, so I get this question a lot. Is there a way to mass tag your contacts? There is. I oftentimes see agents kind of doing things, in individual accounts, which is, necessary. But then I definitely want everybody to be aware of the things that you can update inside of Realvolve in mass. So I recorded a short video to kind of show you what that looks like. To mass update my contacts, I'm going to first need to select the contacts that I want to update. I can do this a couple ways. If I select on this head icon, I can see here that I have a total of 130 contacts. I could select the chevron and select all 130 contacts by selecting here, and it shows me you have selected 130 contacts. I can then click on this hamburger icon and I get a drop down. And here it lists all the ways that I can, or all the things that I can mass update. I can add or remove tags. If I select to add a tag, I have access to all the tags I've previously created, and I can select that tag. Once I've done that and I click tag them now, that tag would be added to all selected contacts. Same thing with remove. If I select add note, I can come in and type a note, and that note would be stored on the radar page of that contact for every contact that is selected. Assign A, B, C, D. I can assign a category to each of those selected contacts. Their type, so are they client, agent, farm, personal, vendor, hidden, prospect, or team member? Stage and status, aware, know, like, and trust. And again, stage and status are used to populate your contact cross section to make those contacts to these clients. And suspect, prospect, lead, client, and past client. I can also update record type. So is this contact a person or a company? Essentially telling the system, should I look at the work or the home information as default? I can also merge duplicates and delete en masse. So again, I've come in, I've selected the head icon and selected all. I can also do the same thing by using my filter drop down. So maybe I only want to apply tags to people with March birthdays. Once I've either created or selected my filter, I'm going to select the chevron, select all, or select a subset of this list. And then again, I have the option to mass update them. Yeah, so hopefully that kind of gives you an idea of the things that you can mass update in Realvolve and how you can break it down further using the filters and really kind of update and manage your data at a little bit of a higher level.
One of the things that can you go to Realvolve and go into that view all screen?
Sure.
One of the things that I want people to make sure they know of as well is if you go into your contacts on the left-hand side and do the view all option, where you're actually viewing the list of names. And my screen is a little bit slow, I think, because even some of those videos weren't refreshing. Okay, so of course, on the left-hand side is the selection tool. One of the things that's missed a lot is next to the word all contacts, there's two little buttons. One is a list button and one is more of a grid button. And if you click that grid button, Kendra, can you click that grid button?
Yeah, I think you just have a delay, Mark.
Okay, I just have a delay. If you click that grid button on, what it does is it changes the lists from the list format to a list for your A, B, C, D categories and some very basic information. But what this does is you can go through, maybe you do some kind of filtering of some sort. You do some kind of narrowing of your list down to a group of people that maybe aren't categorized at all or whatever. You can go through, do the view all, go into this view of this and just change your ABCs one at a time, but not have to go record next, that type of process. This allows you to do the organization of your contacts very easily through the grid version and still be able to deal with a group of them without having to go the next. So that's another thing that's want to make sure that you knew that you can mass update in a way, but not necessarily mass everybody gets it. Well, you can still do that. I mean, through the format that Kendra said, but kind of in a mass list, go through them and very quickly organize your ABCDs.
And as you notice too, there's color associations with this. And so this contact is categorized as a C. And so you can see over here on the left that this person has been assigned a green color, whereas B is this yellow or beige color. You've got red and blue. And so, through a color association, that's also going to be an indication of category.
Absolutely. Sorry, that's what I wanted to show first. If you want to go back to the.
Yeah, no worries. So next question. I want to create a mailer and print my mailing list. How can I do that in Realvolve? So yeah, you can create PDF documents from scratch or using one of your templates to generate a PDF. You can also use our export function to print a list. And so what I've done is I've created a short video and I have showed an example of a way that is going to allow you to create a recurring task that reminds you to create and send a gift card to anybody that closed that last month, to kind of take a look at how this function works. I've created a process where
hey,
I want
Kendra,
to create.
my pause. Okay, unless I'm delayed, and I'm sorry, I'm still seeing your Realvolve screen.
Is that better?
There we go.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. A recurring task that reminds me to generate a PDF mailer or a letter to my clients that had closed the previous month, including a gift card to them, thanking them and hoping that they're enjoying their new space. And so what I'm going to do to create that is I'm first going to create the recurring task. And I'm going to create the recurring task underneath my contact. And so I'm going to search for myself. And I'm going to select my my contact record, and this head icon indicates that this is attached to a Realvolve account. So I'm going to select this and I'm going to come over under the radar tab, under start a workflow, and click inside what do you have to do, essentially creating a one-off task. In this case, I want to send the previous month's closing letter with a gift card. And so I've typed in what I'm going to do. Now I'm going to type in when I'm going to do it. In this case, I want to send it out on the 1st for the previous month's closing. So I want to start this on May 1st. I'm going to assign it to myself. I could easily select this drop down and assign it to someone else on my team, an admin or otherwise. I could assign a time, a color, even a to-do or a type. In this case, this is a to-do. And I'm going to select create. When I select create, I want to make this one task that I've created recur monthly. So I'm going to hover over the pencil icon, select it. I'm going to select due date down to all day. And I want to make this repeat. And so in this case, I want this to repeat once a month. And I want it to repeat by day of month, not week of month, because I don't want to do this on a specific Tuesday. I just want to do this on the 1st. And I also don't want it to end after a certain number of occurrences or a certain date. And so I want it to repeat forever. So I'm going to click never. Once I've selected this, I'm going to hit save, save again, and my activity is created. So under activities, I should have an activity for May 1st. Right here I do. Send previous month's closing gift card letter. All right. And so that essentially is going to show up May 1st, and it's going to tell me that I need to pull a list and generate this letter that I'm going to mail out with a gift card. And so what I do when that task comes up is I need to find the people that closed the previous month first. I've also created a template that I can generate into a PDF, and I'll show you what that looks like. So I'm going to come to this head icon, and I'm going to filter to create a new contact. In this case, I want to select date because I want to find those people that just closed, and I can do that by their home purchase anniversary. So when I come down here on home purchase anniversary, I have two options, with year and without year. If I pull a list of April closings without year, it's going to show me things from last year or previous years, and probably show you a pretty large list of people that you probably don't want to send a gift card to. So I'm going to select home purchase anniversary and then with year. After I've done that, I'm going to come in and I'm going to say, show me everybody that has closed on this year from April 1st to April 30th. When I do that, you can see that the contacts have narrowed themselves down to 4. I can select next to hold that filter. And I then have access to my contact list. I could come down in here and give this filter a name. And when I clicked on apply, it would save this filter for future use. So when I came in, it would be listed here rather than me re-pulling this list. In this case, I'm not going to save it. I just want access to the people that closed this year in April. So here are the 4 people. I can then select everyone. And once I do that, I have access to this PDF icon. When I hover over it, it says generate PDF. And in this case, I've already created this template that I've called gift card letter. So you can see here, it looks like kind of in a letter format. It is one of our templates. And I also have the option to combine primary and secondary. And so if these people are listed in a relationship, do you want each of them to get a letter, or are you going to combine a household? In this case, I'm probably going to combine a household. And then I can click create PDF. If I click show preview, I'll show you kind of what that looks like when it's generated. And so here it is. It's going to create this PDF for each of the people that I have selected. And when I hit print, I'm going to have a list or essentially the name and mailing address for each person. So then I can get my gift cards, attach one to each letter, and get those in the mail. And your processes may be different than that. And I hope that that kind of just shows you, you know, the power of generating those PDFs, or one potential way that you can do that. If one of the things, like I said, we're going to be giving away a yearly reminder workflow today, but in addition, if you want a copy of that template, happy to give that to you guys. Just let me know when you share your information at the end. And that kind of format, that letter format, can be replicated or changed or tweaked, or, you know, ChatGPT can be involved to kind of help you think of other scenarios you can use that. Did you have anything on that, Mark? Okay. So another question that we've got, can we use templates?
I do. Sorry,
Okay.
I was on mute. I was talking and it was in mute. Whenever you're doing PDFs, especially if you're doing groups of PDFs, and there is an option where you can do, like, select a bunch of the PDFs, send them out, and each one of them get their own separate copy in the files section.
Mm-hmm.
So
by generating the PDF?
Yeah. So while it will actually create one big PDF so that you can print that PDF off without going onto each one of them, you actually can see one big PDF with all the different selected contacts in them. Mm-hmm. You can also go into the Files tab and see copies of that PDF for each person individually if you want to maybe resend it or reprint it. Something didn't print right for a particular one, you can go through and do just the individuals.
Okay, so I'm not in that same account, but what you're saying is if I come into contacts here, I select this, I generate a PDF. Excuse my bad example because I don't have the right template in this account. Are you saying that when I select create PDF, it is going to log an individual copy in the files tab for each contact? Is that right? Correct. Yeah. So in this case, it says print PDF for 7 contacts. Now, what that'll do is down in the bottom left-hand corner, there's a little checkbox that says save file. If that is checked, what it also does, in addition to creating one big PDF with all 7 contacts in one PDF so that you can print it as one big job, it will also allow you to save the individual
copy into the contact record of that files tab.
Got
Let
it.
me
So did you notice how when I generated that PDF, actually at the bottom it said, generate PDF. So I could have opened all of those to print them off. And then as Mark was saying, inside of each contact, you have a files tab. And do you see how this home purchase anniversary email PDF saved itself inside of this individual contact records and any of these other contacts that I had saved? So yeah,
Correct.
great point.
And if for whatever reason, maybe, it comes up and says, do you want to view it or whatever? If you don't answer yes at that particular point, under the settings, there is an area where you can choose to reprint things that you've printed in the past.
Gotcha.
Here's what I found.
Awesome. So our next question that we have is that we've gotten recently is, can I use a template for a one-off SMS? And you absolutely can. So if you're inside of any contact, property, or transaction, you have the ability to select in the top right-hand corner the text icon. When you do that, you should see what you see in this image right here. Please select template. And so you would be able to use that drop down and select from any of your SMS templates that you have stored in the system, or you could just start type your SMS here if you didn't want to use those. And so the example that I've put together and something that I use in my own business is the example where I have listings and an agent would call in. A lot of times maybe that's done through a showing service now. And I think I mentioned that in the video, but this example is basically what is a quick way for me to reuse the information? I'm always looking for ways to reuse information that I already have stored in Realvolve and do things quickly and automate things as much as possible. And so this example kind of shows a way that you can use a template, a text template, as a way to kind of automate getting that information out. I want a way to easily provide showing request or access information to a property after a buyer's agent has requested to show something that I have listed for sale. So what I have done is I created a text template that essentially allows me to come into the property that I have listed for sale. In this case, 123 Main Street. I can then select text. Once I've done that, I am able to input the mobile number of the agent that is showing this property. Okay. Then I'm also able to select a template. And so in this case, I have entitled my template text showing instructions to buyer's agent. So thank you for showing 123 Main Street. Please see the details below. So let's go ahead and take a look at what it looks like when we use all these merge fields to essentially very quickly create a text message that goes over to a buyer's agent from a listing agent that provides them all the details that they would need to know after they requested a showing. A couple benefits of this. You may have it set up in showing time or otherwise that provides this information. You may just want to start a text chain with that agent so that you have direct contact with them. You can follow up more easily. This is also a good way to notate that how many showings you put in the system and create a chain essentially in your notes and correspondence area that shows that you sent this out and at what time and date that you're getting these inquiries. So in this case, it's put in a lot of information for me. Thank you for showing 123 Main Street. Please see the details below. Showing instructions. I didn't type any of this, the system did. Actually, this whole template was generated because of the template and then the merge fields that I'm using. So let's go ahead and send this and see how we set this template up. So inside of templates, I clicked create a new template. I have selected to send this via SMS, and I've entitled it text showing instructions to buyer's agent. I've also selected to use with property. And the reason I did this is because I want to essentially pull the information out of the property so that I don't have to retype it or go find that information somewhere else. And as you can see, it logged that correspondence or that text message to this agent right here under this property. So I have record of that. So I select use with property, and I've used a few merge fields. Okay, the property street address, pretty straightforward. It's going to pull from whatever is in here. Showing instructions, directions, lockbox location, alarm code, gate code, other code. And I've also said pull in current user work phone. So current user is whoever's account I'm logged into, it's going to pull that person's work phone. So current user would assume that I'm probably sending, if you have a transaction coordinator, a listing coordinator, something like that, it would send their information if they're sending it from their account, but it would send my information as the listing agent if I'm logged in under my account. I also could do primary user work phone, in which case, if the admin was sending it out, it would still pull the main account holder's work phone. And so let's see where the majority of this other information is located. So inside of my property, under showings, I have a lot of information here. So I've essentially filled all of these out, and I've stored this information so that I can easily see there's a tenant. Well, in this case, it's vacant now, but we just need to update that. And all this information is here. So I essentially harness the power of merge codes to pull that information in automatically and then be able to send it over or utilize that template inside of a text. I want a way to So yes, you can use templates inside of text messages, and that's just one of many, many ways that you can do that. Anything on that, Mark?
I mean, anything that you do more than once, as far as messages, emails, any of that, if you find yourself doing it more than once, and if that data exists in Realvolve, you should set up a template. You should use the merge fields, and you should be able to, from either the contact record itself or from the property or transaction record, be able to send whatever content that you're needing. And even if it is an email with a particular attachment, make sure that you put the attachment on the email itself and be able to send it that way. You can simplify some of the processes that you've got that take up, even if it takes up 2 to 3 minutes, it can typically be done in 2 to 3 seconds with a template and merge fields.
Right. And that's where I would say start with those things that whether you call them pain points, whether you think where am I spending the majority of my day. And so in the beginning, you want to look for those things that are taking 15, 20, 30 minutes, to do and get those off your plate first. And then as you get proficient in that, then you want to narrow that down. And are there things that I could be more efficient at? And how can I automate this? Or how can I take those things that are taking me 5 minutes and make them 1 minute? And that's the goal. And again, how you start with that, whether you're a new or seasoned agent, you stop and you take a look at the things that are taking up the majority of your day. So the next question we have on here is, how do I test a workflow sequence in one day? Anytime you write or, purchase a workflow, you definitely want to test it. And so those are going to be tested typically in a test contact. In this case, I've got Kendra test. And so you can go into your account, you can run a contact workflow on yourself. You can create a test contact if you want to kind of see how that would look if you're maybe have 2 different emails. Sometimes if you run it on yourself, it can look like you're sending emails from yourself to yourself. So a lot of times people create, a dummy contact, a dummy property, or dummy transaction. So a lot of times what's important here when you're testing workflows is that you launch it on a property where it's okay to test it, so if you need to send out 3 or 4 emails in one day, so that's why we encourage, creating those test properties to get comfortable with them. Also, I would suggest that you use accurate timelines. So for instance, if I'm doing a contract to close, or I'm testing a workflow, one of the first things you're going to do when you're starting that workflow is put in dummy data. Okay. If you put in that your acceptance date is today and you're closing tomorrow, and you have a task to email utilities 30 days before closing, the way those activities generate are not going to be as accurate as they could be. So you really want to think about, well, I typically close in 45 days. So pick a day 45 days from now, and kind of make that dummy data as accurate and timeline as possible. Also, once you do that and you launch a test workflow, I've notated this arrow here. Your activities that are due are going to show up under radar. If you work out of your radar tab when you're testing workflows, you are going to be there for months, because those only show up when they're due, right? So if you have a closing reminder the day before closing, but you've set your closing date for a month and a half from now, we really don't want to take the time to wait that long. And so the way you're going to access your activities once you've launched a test workflow is to click on your activities tab and click on incomplete. You'll then see a total number. In this case, you have 35 incomplete activities. It will give you due dates in sequential order with the ones that are due first on top. And so you can kind of visualize, well, this is what the workflow would have me do first, second, third, and you can kind of work through the list in one day, or essentially just, next to next to next. And you're not really waiting on anything to get done, because those activities do live there, even if they're due in the future, and you can complete them early.
Yeah, as you're going through any of the workflows, as long as you started it on a property transaction or contact of some sort, going into that activities list, looking at the incompletes, going through the biggest challenge that you run into is if you have something where it's like an activity that's based off of the completion of some other activity, and making sure that once you complete one, that if it didn't have a date, give it a 30 seconds or so to have the system update the date of those updated activities. Does that make sense, Kendra?
Yeah,
we call them
absolutely.
dependent activities. So
Mm-hmm.
you could have some activity like send an invite to the photographer or a message to the photographer that you want to schedule a photography thing. Well, another activity might be that you want to make sure that the individual photos are ready from that photographer. Well, you don't want to do that until the activity has actually been completed for going out and doing the shoot, and if it changed dates or whatever. So some things won't have dates. They're dependent on other activities being complete. Once it's complete, then it should reassign those dates to the dependent activity.
Yep, absolutely. And so the way that will look right here, the activity will still, it will still generate itself. It won't assign itself a date. Okay. So perfect example with the photography. I can't send a confirmation email on it until, I've scheduled that photography date. Well, if I have scheduled a reminder the day before the photography date, how can the system create or assign that task if it doesn't know the photography date? Okay. So that's why it's so important when you're building out your workflows that you're putting in kind of catch-alls, so that you're making sure that you're asking for the photography date. When is that going to be, so that those dependent activities can generate when they're supposed to be generating?
Yeah. And that may be an advanced topic theory, but it's just something that you need to know of if you're going to go through some process that is, all in one day like this. There's going to be some of these activities that won't have dates until you complete others, and it may take 30 seconds for it to refresh the activity. You can just click on the activity tab and it'll refresh it.
Yeah, absolutely. Next question we have is, where do I see all activities I have to do each day, not just client by client? And so you're going to take a look at these arrows. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to click on this circle with the check mark. And then right below it, you'll see it generates activities and then a number. In this case, I have 111 activities. If I click on that, then this view in the middle will generate itself and essentially give me a list of the activities with type, date, a contact, or property, and also giving me a list of what agent those are assigned to. So again, and like Mark said, some of these things are advanced, topics. I wouldn't feel discouraged if there's things that we're talking about that you don't know. These office hours are meant for that, right? They're meant to answer the questions that you have or to get the help that you need. We also have a premium services department that we can work one-on-one with you bi-weekly, weekly, or a go at your own pace program to kind of get your suite of workflows set up, because, two agents may be in the same city, but they may not work the same. Their processes might not be the same, and what works for them might not be the same. So really our goal in the premium services department is to make sure that you're set up for success and that you have what you need to empower your own business. So I put a few things we're going to talk about in upcoming webinars as well. Turning your data into dollars. And so if you have a database of 15,000 people and you do nothing with it, you make no money off of it, right? So how do we use Realvolve to take that data and do dollar productive activities with it? So we're going to kind of take a deep dive in that in a 2-part series. The first part is going to really focus on initial things that you should be doing. And the second part really focusing on more advanced stuff. Another webinar on harnessing Realvolve superpowers, empowering the solo agent, and automation in your business. And we'll continue to do these kind of question and answer things. So as you guys have questions, or if you have other topics that you don't see on upcoming months, my email is Kendra@Realvolve, and feel free to email me, ask your questions, and we can get them answered.
Yeah. And we do have some questions in the chat area that we can go through right now.
Okay. Again, access, share, help, and support. And use your how do I, your support, submit a support ticket if something's broken or you don't, it's not working as you would expect. Your help to search articles. And yeah, so I guess we can go ahead with the Q&A, and then I'll go over our giveaway today.
Absolutely. Okay, so first question, Jenny says, is there a way to print out the workflow to see what steps I want to add? So currently there's not. I do have something in the works that will actually do that process, but what I typically have done in the past, is simply gone into the workflows area. Kendra, can you go back into Realvolve and go into a workflow of some sort?
Sure.
Kind of show you kind of the process I've done in the past. Not that it's perfect or the best way, definitely printing them out would be the best way. And that's something that we are, I'm actually building something to do that process for everybody, but have you switched over? So I'm still seeing today's giveaway. Okay, so so if you go into a workflow and open up the activities list of any given workflow, and there could be 1 or 2 things in there, there could be 100 things in there, whatever workflow that you've got. What I will typically do is, in that list where it has the list of all the activities, I'll click in that very first activity, just the left of the title of it, actually, and then drag down. Just click and drag, hold your mouse down so that it actually highlights all those activities. Then you can right click and copy.
Yep.
And then go into, say, Google Sheets, and then paste that which is all it is a table of information. Paste that table into Google Sheets, and it'll list all of these items straight in Google Sheets for you. So then you can go in there and print them off. You can, add or subtract items that you know that you need to think about, and then come back into Realvolve and make your changes from there. If you just highlight all that, right-click copy, then right-click paste. Actually, Kendra, if you will click in that upper left-hand corner of your grid of the spreadsheet, I think it'll actually put it in as a table as opposed to.
If I do what now?
splitting.
Put to the right hand, this here?
In that upper left-hand corner, I'm sorry, in the upper left-hand corner of that of the grid of the spreadsheet, it'll highlight the entire spreadsheet, and then you paste. Your screen went away from me again.
Not sure why it's not sharing accurately.
And it could be me. I'm really slow. Okay. Yeah. Once you do that, now do a Control V or paste.
Yeah. So I know there's a way to paste it so it's like formatted in different columns. I'm just not sure why it's doing it right now.
And the other option, I mean, I guess you could just, paste that into Google Docs or Word or whatever, and it would allow you to do that process. But that's what I've done in the past. Like I said, I am working on an actual print option so that you can go to any particular workflow, click on the print, and it'll come up with more of a, not only the list, but some detailed information and show that. So I'll make that available very soon for people.
And two, also, if you go through our Navigator program, you're given a worksheet with a print copy of kind of everything, the standardized things that we're going to talk through and customize for you. And so that view to some people is preferred over kind of looking at that back end of Realvolve. Kind of a personal preference there as well. So, and then also our navigators are so versed in the workflows that we can really kind of talk through, what you want to be doing and ensure that those tasks are set up so that those list of tasks don't seem so daunting and overwhelming when you look at them.
Absolutely. Okay, so there's that one. Jimmy also asked, some emails I send say bounce. What does that mean? So, whenever you send an email through Realvolve, one of the things that happens is we send automatically a little pixel, a tracking pixel in each of the emails. So we know whenever that email is being sent that it actually is processed, it's sent to their server, it's opened, it's clicked on, some of that statusy type information. We also know that if you send something to somebody and say that email address isn't any good, it'll bounce back to you. And the fact that it says bounce typically means that email address was not good, and it in trying to send it, it bounced back, just like, return to sender, and it just didn't know where to go. And it can happen if somebody, has a brand new email address and you've sent something to them before they've actually got it set up. I've seen that happen where like they're in an office and they know they're going to be at, Kim at abcrealty.com, but maybe the tech department hasn't made the account yet. So whenever you send it, it'll bounce back. Typically though, however, it's more of a case of just they no longer use that. It's a closed account, or it's been typed in incorrectly.
Yeah. And another thing you can do too, when you're looking at this, again, this is if you're sending through our server, you will have delivery statuses. So you can see that this email was, some of the things that you may see are delivered, which means they got it. It's not showing opened yet. Opened, clicked. And so if you have clicks inside of that email, it will indicate if that email has been clicked into. Unsubscribe, if they have opted out of your communication, can be beneficial to monitor for that. And again, bounced is probably going to mean that you have just a bad email. And so one of the things that you can do in addition to looking at the top right here is by clicking this drop down and hovering over at the bottom, because in addition, if this said bounced or unsubscribed or something, I can actually click on this. And if I had sent this email to 3 people and 3 of them said delivered and 1 of them said unsubscribed, I would want to see which of those 3 had actually been delivered and which one had been unsubscribed. And kind of clicking this drop down and clicking into the information will give you that. Great question.
Yeah.
What we got?
Okay. I use iHouse Web for my website. I need my web leads to feed into Realvolve, and I don't know how to do that.
Okay. So that all goes into the various ways. And for each information source, it's going to depend on the information source. So the first thing that we're going to do is say, do we have a third-party service like Zapier that has a direct connection with iHouse Web? Off of the top of my head, I don't think they do. So if they did have a direct connection, which means they've established a relationship with Zapier, then we can just say, hey, Zapier, pay attention inside this website. And anytime you see a new lead come in, grab that information and throw it into Realvolve. Okay. Even if there is not an established relationship, let's say with iHouse Web or otherwise, you may be getting information other ways. So let's say that every time you have an IDX website, somebody is searching property, you get an email about it. If you have enough information inside of that email, we can monitor your email address, or Zapier can, through an email parser, and pay attention to when that information is sent from your website, grab it, and then again, through Zapier or third-party service, throw it into Realvolve and start working on it that way.
Yeah, and we have several trainings on how to process through that. That is something that our navigator team can help you with as well, through some different services that we've got.
Yeah, we do set up that for you.
Yeah, same thing for Facebook leads. Whenever you get a lead from Facebook, it comes in with a name, email, some very basic information. Zapier has one of those established relationships, so they have a Facebook Zap, and whenever the Facebook lead comes into Facebook, and Zapier will say, "Oh, we've got this new lead. Let's send it over into Realvolve." And so setting those Zaps up is important. And whenever you're setting those up, as the name comes into the database, as soon as that lead comes in, you can immediately start a specific workflow. So maybe you say, well, my Facebook leads, I want them to start my Facebook lead workflow, and it'll go through and it will do whatever process you want to do based off of it coming from Facebook. You might have a different workflow if it came from realtor.com or some of the other services that are out there, or your own website or whatever. They could be the same the same workflow, but you can also choose to use different workflows. The whole key to that, though, is whenever the lead comes in, it auto starts the workflow. That the very first thing of that workflow is send a confirmation email to that lead. Hey, thank you for visiting the website. I'd be happy to answer any questions, blah, 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 whatever you want in there. But also send a notification to yourself so that based off of that lead coming in, that you've got a new lead in Realvolve, and make sure that notification goes to your SMS and notifies you immediately so that you can immediately make a phone call.
Yeah, and that's one of your first steps, that you should be identifying all of your lead sources and identifying if there is automation behind that. And I know that if you're not familiar with automation or Zapier or how those things work. If you're currently in our Navigator program, I would, if you need a Zap set up, or if your Zap has broken and you need some troubleshooting behind it, email your Navigator and then they can help you. If you're not in the Navigator program and you need information on setting up a Zap, or you want, we do have services for that. And so email me if that's, you know, a question, if you want to know if something that can come in or put some automation behind a lead source, or if it's something that you want to have us set up for you, just email me at kendra@realvolve.com.
Absolutely. Another question. I find that adding contact birthdays automatically creates 3 to 4 birthday activities. Each year, as I complete them, after I follow up, there is one less remaining activity, birthday activity. Many contacts are down to only 1 or more birthday activities, and I'm concerned I won't have the follow-up activity reminder for those birthdays once the last activity is completed. Okay, so Craig, on that, one of the things that we used to do, and you've been with us for a while, so you probably have seen both ways. Originally in Realvolve, whenever you would set up a birthday, you'd put in the birthday date itself, it would create like 50 birthday activities into a contact. And while that was good, it would show 50 different birthdays. What it did also is it kind of cluttered up people's activity list, and they were confused why there were so many birthdays. Well, once they looked, it was, each year there was a birthday. So in order to try to save support calls, why do I have so many birthday items? What we did, and it also helped reduce the amount of space being stored in the database as well. Not that that was a huge issue, but we turned it into more of an automated, it would build out up to 3 years. And then as you complete them, the completed activities go into the completed area. The incomplete activities will remain there. And then every, I think it's like every so many months, if something is within the next range of that month, it'll auto generate more activities for you at that point. So technically those activities should be getting created for you, especially if they're down to 1. If you're seeing an issue with that, definitely reach out to our support team and we can take a look, but that should not be a problem unless you've stopped the birthdays and it has an end date. So any kind of repeating activity can have an end date, and if that end date is fairly new, then it won't generate any more after that end date. So we may need to take a look at any of those that are down to 1. We want to definitely take a look at any of those just to see why they're not auto generating if you think they're not, but I'm betting that they actually are.
Yeah, and if that's something you're concerned with, Craig, go ahead and email support@realvolve.com and give us an example of where you're seeing that contact limitation, and we can definitely verify that for you.
Absolutely. Is there a way to use my RingCentral phone number in Realvolve instead of the assigned SMS number? So you can use your RingCentral number as your phone number in your user settings. However, our SMS number, whenever you're sending SMSs and stuff, in order for us to use it, we have to control it. And that's actually done through a third-party service and not able to be hooked into RingCentral itself. You could set up a Zap to send it through RingCentral if you wanted to. I know RingCentral has a Zap, so if there's certain types of activities that you do and you want it to be part of your workflow, you could actually send it as a webhook to send your activity through that process. The challenge there is, it doesn't keep, well, I guess it keeps the activity log that it's been completed, but you don't get the copy of that SMS inside Realvolve doing it that way.
Yeah, and I get that question a lot, right? You want to not confuse contacts with multiple numbers, or at least control that. And so for me, what I want to do is establish or control the narrative. Okay. And so when you think about initial contact with a lead, internet captures, or whatever it is, okay, then you're essentially, let's just say that a person emailed or was captured off of your website, and they are thrown into Realvolve, and your first task says, text this person. Okay. So let's say you do it out of Realvolve. So as Mark was saying, you have a couple options. One, lead comes in, we text him out of Realvolve, and that text says something to the effect of, thank you so much for signing up on our website. And then we'll reach out just as soon as possible. At the bottom of it says, this is a text only line. Please contact me or call me directly at. Okay. That's often what we do for a lot of our clients. As Mark was saying, the other option is have that lead come in. And if you want to control that communication through something like Ring Central, your first task may not be to auto text that lead. It may be actually, as Mark was saying, a webhook, or sending that information out of Realvolve over through something like Zapier that then throws it into something like Ring Central, and that text communication is established there. But I do think if you start initial contact or communication with a lead, then through, and you put something to the fact that this is a text only line, please call me at this number. You're really, to me, it is no different as long as you're using it in a fashion where you're establishing initial communication, and in a transactional level, you're using it something like a doctor's office would, right? Just a reminder, your closing is at this, and they still know that they can reach you directly at a different number.
Yeah. Cheryl does ask a similar type of question. Is there an integration in Realvolve with Ring Central? One of the things that you can do is, now we've got our dialer, and if you can turn that on, but if you have it off, by default, Realvolve does have a setting in there so that it links to whatever software is connected to the TEL service. So in your computer, whenever if you're a Mac user or a Windows user, either one, just like there's an HTTP URL link, there's also a link called a TEL link, TEL:. And if your computer is set up, and Ring Central will do this, where you can tell it that anytime I use a TEL command, use Ring Central, it will actually allow you to dial through it that way. So you can click on the phone number and it would auto dial through Ring Central, because Windows or the Mac is actually set up to use that TEL command, just like a HTTP URL, but it's a telephone URL.
Yeah. And so if you're wanting to test that, open up one of your contacts, and right underneath your contact's name, you'll see their phone number. If you click on it, then your system or your will want to, call with some kind of platform, and you can control your settings in your computer to kind of default to where that is, Ring Central, if that's what you decide.
Right. Last question I've got on here from Craig. Is there a way to sort those workflow tasks? So workflow tasks are actually auto-sorted. They're not in there arbitrarily at all. But there is some control on how you would have them sorted based off of how we have them showing sorted. So the one thing that we do is we group, whenever you're looking at a workflow, we group each of those workflows by their milestone date type. So if an activity is based off of a start date, any activities that are based off a start date will be grouped together. If they're based off of the listing date, then anything listed in the listing date will be listed together. So they'll be in chunks or in groups by those established milestone dates first. Then what we do is we say, okay, based off of that milestone date, how many days before or after that milestone date will this activity be done? So if you've got something that says 5 days after listing date, it will show after any activity that is identified as the listing date. Or if it's 15 days after listing date, it will be after the one that's 5 days. So there's an actual order of that list in the first place. Now, if something falls on the same date, say you've got 2 or 3 things that are 5 days after list date, well, inside each activity, there is an order field, there's a priority, and there's an order field. And then at that point, we do say, okay, based off of it being on the same date, we'll also look at the order. Order 1 comes first, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 99, I think is the max. And then that way you can put them, even if they fall on the same date, you can put them into an order for viewing purposes inside your calendar so that you do one item before the other.
Yeah, and you can see my screen, right, Mark?
Yes, I do now.
Yeah, and so that's what I've done here, right? We have 2 tasks, both 1 day before start date. I have said I want to see this task as priority number 1, whereas even though these 2 things are the same date, I want to set my staging appointment as a second priority. And so when it creates these 2 tasks, it's going to prioritize one over the other based off of that. And again, in the workflow view, you can see 0 days, goes then 1 day, then 2 day, and then it goes into photography date. So it's going to take kind of, as Mark was saying, those subcategories and group them together when you're building out your workflow. You also, another thing I wanted to mention really quickly, once those activities are created, your activities have filters. And so one of the things that you may want to do is come in and prioritize things by due date, by recently added, and things of that nature. So there's some filtering or organization of activities after they're created as well.
Okay, let me see. Do we have any others? Actually, yeah, there are a few more here. Okay, wasn't sure as many contacts only have 1 birthday activity remaining. Okay. Yeah, reach out to support on that, Craig. We'll take a look at that. All we really need to know is kind of which, if there is a particular contact, and we can go through that.
Yeah, I think that's all the questions.
There's one here from Craig again. I was thinking there was also a setting in Realvolve that forwards the SMS number to a telephone call number of my choosing. So that one is possible. Just reach out to our support team and they'll set that up for you. There is a process we have to go through on our end to do call forwarding, basically. So just reach out and tell them that you want to forward, get your number in there. So
Yeah, and I know we're over time. We did put together we have a yearly agent workflow. And so we want to, again, provide you guys with value. And so if you would like either, any of the templates that you saw today or, creating that PDF template, or that workflow is specifically launched one time on yourself, and it's supposed to help you with those things that you should ideally be doing every year, but you logically probably sometimes overlook, right? So are there any purchase and sale or your contract updates that you should be reviewing? Are you taking a look at your tags yearly and making sure that those are good? Are you doing those things that you really should be doing once a year that you probably aren't thinking about? So we've put together a workflow that you launch one time. It's going to create repeating tasks once a year that really just help you make sure that you stay on top of those administrative tasks or best practices for you as an agent. So if you'd like that, go ahead and put your email into the chat and we'll make sure that's downloaded into your Realvolve account. Again, make sure you put your Realvolve email in there so we know where to download it.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we are over time. We thank you for joining us. Sorry for the technical challenges. Put in your emails real quick and we will get those out to you. Anything else? Great job, Kendra. Sorry for the challenge.
No worries. We'll see everybody next week, same time.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.